Welcome to What the Biz, where we talk about building successful businesses, balancing life, and all the WTB in between. With your hosts,
I'm Bridget Vector.
And I'm Dan Prochko. Welcome back to another episode of What the Biz. Having what I am explaining is an exciting topic. I love talking about this stuff. We're going to talk about sales today, qualifying leads, and whether or not your marketers are pulling their weight. And as a marketer, that's really important to me because I like to pull my weight and really make it happen. But time to time, you get that thought where it's just like, man, I'm just not closing anything right now. Am I getting the right quality leads in, or do my marketers just suck? You know, and I know it's a mindset a lot of people have and think about. And so we're going to talk about it, and we're going to go through it to make sure we got the right mindset around things, because it's really, really important to just understand how the whole process works and everything. We're going to get into some psychology, but it's really cool. It's so cool. Like getting to know people, really cool. You can tell I'm really excited about this. But anyway, aside from that, I am joined as always by Bridget Vector. How you doing, Bridget?
Hello, I just stress me out because just because I think there's so many things that go into it that like you can't control. So like outside,
right?
So it's like this, I don't know, it's like this ever evolving target, which is why partners are so great, because that's what they do every day, right? Like a marketing partner, That's what they're doing every single day. But yeah, it's stressful. But I know we're going to dive into that. On the flip side, we're here another week. My day has gone nothing like I thought it was going to go today. So we'll just chalk that up to the day of a business owner again.
That's exactly what I would chalk it up to as well. Totally. So look, how about we jump in real quick, and let me just ask you a quick question. Okay. When you're working on sales, okay, or when you're, getting into I got this call coming up, I think I'm going to close them, etc. How do you address qualifying? Like, what kind of mindset do you take?
So I try before the call to actually do some pre-qualifying work. That may be researching the company, kind of getting a feel for who they are, what they have. Like if it's an individual, like seeing if I can find things about them, right? So I do some pre-legwork.
Nice. Yeah.
We also try to have some stop points, like where maybe they're filling out certain things, or maybe they're going through like a qualifying quiz or answering questions when they're booking the appointment. But we try to not overdo that to disqualify somebody that might just not know how to answer the question we're asking. But I do research. Like I will do research beforehand.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I do. I do a lot of that too. I mean, I think that's just being good at building relationships, honestly, getting to know who we're going to talk to, et cetera. I think that's awesome. So why am I asking these questions? Why are we talking about this? Well, as a marketer, I got clients, and from time to time I'll hear, hey, the clients aren't closing. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's figure out why, but that happens enough that not just my clients, even myself, when I get leads coming in, I'll have this thought of like, man, my marketer's not really pulling their weight. This stuff coming in really sucks. And I'm the marketer because I'm the one generating the leads.
Fire yourself.
It does suck because you're just not driving the revenue that you want to drive. You may have hired employees to handle the new business, but it's just not closing fast enough. And now at risk of losing those employees. Like that's a real thing when it may not be your marketer's fault. And we'll talk about that today. So that's like number one. Okay. Like you have these issues of wanting to grow. You're not getting, the revenue you want. You may have to lose employees because you hired them in, et cetera. Especially like in service businesses, it's hard to hold on to them if you're not filling their schedule. So like, that's one reason we're talking about this today, is to get a better handle on what it all means and what that mindset tells us. The other is this idea that there is such a thing as a good lead. And I put that in quotes because I'll tell you straight up, I don't know that that's a real thing. There is such a thing as a bad lead. Okay. But I don't know that there's such a thing as a good lead. And we'll talk about that today. And then lastly, the reason we're talking about this is, if you get a lot of leads in through your system, they're not all as good as others. So you're just wasting a lot of time working all of them when you'd rather work on the better ones that are going to convert. So those are really like your three, huge problems here is that you've got this drain on resources, personally, you've got feeling like a waste of spending with your marketing partner. And then third is like your growth is just really impacted. So those are real three important reasons to be focusing on this.
I'm going to have a question for you in that third one. If you're diving into the last one later on, I think I have a good question there for you. So, yeah.
Okay. So hit me with it. Just hit me with it. What's that question?
Well, because you were talking about when there's so many leads or there's a lot at the end of the funnel, right? Like a lot to sort through, and maybe you're wasting time on certain ones that you shouldn't. Is there something in that world is like a secondary way to like filter some of those out before you even waste your time?
Yes, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that in a bit. There's something called lead scoring that we can do. And I don't know, have you heard the term before or have you used it at all?
Maybe not in that exact way, but I might know what you're saying.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So something called lead scoring, which is really cool. And we'll touch on that for a bit. But what I want to talk about first before we get there, because understanding this next point is going to help us understand that one, lead scoring a bit more, is just understanding there's two types of leads out there. Let's just put it this way. Terminology is really important, the words we use, okay? One, I'm using the word lead. Other companies might say prospect. Other companies might say opportunity. Another one might say deal. But these are all very different things, and you really have to understand your funnel and what's going on. So the way I look at it is at the very top, you've got just a list. It's just a list. They're not prospects. They're not leads. They're nothing. It's just a list of people. It's just people. And when I say list, I don't even mean like you literally have a list of names. I mean, you have like a list of criteria, and I think this goes into part of your question, around lead scoring. So you have a list of criteria. It might be, if you're a B2B company, you work with other businesses, you might say, I want to work with businesses of a certain size. That could be revenue. Maybe that's size of the team. It could be geographic location. It could be in certain industries. And then same thing for service businesses. Do you have a geographic location that you work in? What type of customer do you want to work with? Are they in a certain income level? Maybe it's a gender specific business, so there's all of these things that first go into the list, all of these criteria. And when you define those, it really helps to focus your marketing, because you're not just spending on everybody, you're spending and creating content and messaging, trying to attract the people that fit those criteria. Okay. So I think that's like number one, is you can actually pre-filter leads coming in by making sure we're communicating to just the ones we want. Okay. So that's number one. After that, you have the rest of the funnel, which is like after they fill out a form or after your sales team talks with them, et cetera. Those are two different types of leads. When somebody comes to your website and fills out a form, or when they initially call you, that's what I call a marketing qualified lead, or just a marketing lead. They've gotten through the marketing filters and have still decided to raise their hand and say, yeah, you know what? I'm interested. I want to talk to you, and there's different levels of a marketing lead, because you might have really low intent, which is like they sign up for a newsletter. You have slightly higher intent if they download like a sales comparison ebook. You might have an even higher intent if it's like, no, I'm asking for a sales conversation or a quote, And so you've got different levels of marketing lead, and depending on that depth of relationship they are asking for and how they convert, that determines how qualified they are. And so I think that's the first kind. The second kind is sales qualified lead. So this is after they've said, I want a sales conversation. So they're pretty motivated because they have to give you their information to have one effort. As effort, right? Or they pick up a phone, they've actually called, they're like, let me talk to your salesperson. Yeah. Cool. Sales qualified, done. Well, sorry, not fully sales qualified. That's marketing qualified. Okay. They are qualified to have a sales conversation. That's what a marketing qualified lead is. Okay. So now sales has to qualify them. What sales does is they qualify a lead or synonym prospect, whatever you want to call them. In that way, that stage, I use either lead or prospect interchangeably. That stage, they are now qualifying them to see if they are right for the product or service. So they have to go through all of questions, qualifiers, et cetera, and we'll get into what some of those are in a bit, to identify, are they right for my product? Okay. And so I think that mindset is really important to have, is to know that there are two different types of prospects out there, or two different types of leads. And that sometimes that question around, man, these leads suck. Well, okay, that's cool. But are they just low qualified marketing leads? Meaning all they did was like sign up for a newsletter or the equivalent of, and you're trying to sell them your service. They're obviously not there yet. Or have they asked for a budget, or sorry, a quote, meaning they're willing to have it, and you're still not converting? Because then my point would be, that's a qualified lead for sales to work. There's something with your sales process that you're not, that a sales process is not uncovering what needs to be uncovered to get them over the finish line to become a client. So I think that's like the first place to start. Because so often, Bridget, I've had conversations with sales teams and they're like, these sales are horrible. Well, wait, they're asking to talk to you. How bad can they really be? Mm-hmm. You know, like if we just take that lens and think about it, it's just like they said they're the right person. They have authority. Like they want to talk about services and buy a product, and you're not closing them, or you're telling me they're bad. I think there's a mismatch. And so, I think it's really first important to start to think about how qualified are they in each of those buckets before we start saying things are bad. And I think that's the first place to start, is right there.
And that's where, like, I think there's this clear place, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where something goes from marketing qualified to where it is now a sales function. And the sales side is completely different than a marketing side. Like sales is its own animal. So like hearing that, like, oh, these leads or these prospects stink. Like they stink. Like my first question would be, what's making them stink? Like what is making them say no? Like if it's price, maybe you need a qualifier somewhere that says, here's our like bottom price. So they're leaving before they even get to sales. But there's like a lot of questions in my mind. Like you can't just say something is bad or that the leads stink without saying what's making them stink, because that's
such a good point. Such a good point. Yeah. And I've had so many conversations with our clients where they're like, I want better leads that are ready to spend. And I'm like, okay, is it okay that you're going to get fewer leads? No, I want more leads. Well, hold on. Let's think about this. You're asking for very narrow criteria, okay? Meaning people are less motivated to fill something out. Say it's a form, okay? Would you rather fill out a form with 7 questions or 30 questions? Just to get a quote, you know what I mean? Like you have to be super motivated, like to want to fill out a quote. Say it's for home cleaning, okay? I know I use them as an example a lot because we do a lot with them. It's like a form between here's your name, email, phone, and zip code versus now I also want your street address, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, how many pets you have, how dirty do you think your home is on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, how many people live with you? How many stories does your house have? Do you want me to clean your basement, your attic? Do you want to add on a stove or oven cleaning? Like, how many questions do we have to ask before it's like, no, we know they're interested in cleaning?
Yeah. See,
you know, that's why
I would never be able to do your job. Let's just say that. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it because, like, marketing is hard. I said at the beginning, like, it stresses me out, right? But the concept of more leads versus, like, what you're talking about, like, let's get them through a marketing qualified to sales qualified. I would take way less leads all day long to have those that are like, yep, here's where I am. Like, yep, I no longer ever want to be that financial middleman for my company. I'm tired of being stressed out by finances. Those are the ones that I'd be like, put them in front of me. So like your cleaning example, like the ones that are like, I never want to clean my house again. Put 5 of those in front of me versus 50 that are kind of like, let me see how much it costs to maybe get my house cleaned, and let me see what they'll do, and maybe I'll find the budget. No, like, give me the ones that are like, I'm not ever picky, or I'm never plugging my vacuum in again. Where's my cleaner?
Right. The issue with that, though, in the example is even those people that are wanting that, the question is, do they know you enough and trust you enough where they want to actually reach out to you and fill out that long form that everybody else won't fill out? The unfortunate part about like human psychology is that lizard brain in our head is just like, why am I answering 400 questions just to start a conversation?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what goes through people's brains. So even if they are someone who's willing to hand over the control or the reins of their financial planning, let's just say their business finances and health, you know, in terms of tracking it and organizing it, it's really difficult for them to get over that hurdle. So we can't, you know, it's a toss up, not a toss up. I'd say a seesaw of like, if you're going to ask a ton of questions and make the hurdles really, really hard, you're going to get very, very few submissions because they have to be so motivated and so trusting that they're willing to do it. So then comes the question of like, great, we need to reduce it, meaning we're going to get other people. And so that puts a little bit more burden on sales. And I think that's why, you know, having that list defined at the start is really, really important. Because as marketers, what we can do, and this is to what you were alluding to, is we can create content that speaks to the right person. You know, if we're making ads and landing pages that speak to CEOs only, you know, or speak to that bookkeeper who's also half the office admin, you know what I mean, and doesn't want to do both, you know, it's much easier to get people to self-identify and come in and start trusting you. And it also filters out a lot of other people. You know, if we have pages that are speaking to a CEO, it's going to have a certain language that your everyday sales rep or your office manager is pretty much going to ignore, glaze over. I'm not even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Whereas if you know, and vice versa, if we use very general language, it's going to identify with a lot of people and bring more people in. Or be so general, nobody thinks it's for them and they go away as well. Like you could go to the other extreme. But that's how marketing can help in that way to help focus as well. But that brings us then to sales. So if things are qualified and coming through on a marketing side and they're meeting the criteria, well, then I think it's sales job. You know, there's a sales qualifier that has to happen. And I learned a system called BANT. I think it's pretty standard. It's an acronym, BANT. And what happens in the BANT phase is that a salesperson needs to help identify, does the prospect or lead have enough budget, not only to afford to purchase, but to maintain, okay, and everything that comes with it. All right. Do they have the authority to make the decision? And if they don't, they need to work their way into finding that authority person. Does the lead have a need for this service or product? And that's not as easy as it sounds. So I'm going to come back to need in a second, okay? And then last is timing. Is right now the time to make this purchase? And or is there some pressing like deadline or something like that? You know, like Bridget, you guys do a lot of, you know, book cleanups. You know, Q4 is a great time for book cleanups because once Q1 hits, okay, we're already in tax season pretty much. Like, wow, we need to get this really going. You know, like there's those kinds of things, or doing a book cleanup in Q2 after taxes are done. Oh man, we're in a whole different, you know, a whole different ball of wax. So the need, I'm going to go back to this, is really important because need is not just, yeah, I could do with a marketer, or yeah, I could do with a carpet cleaner. Need is really about the pain and the cost of not having it. That's really where need comes in. Is there enough of a gap? And when we say gap, we literally mean like cost, revenue, profit, something that hurts between not having and having. You know, if me working with a bookkeeper is going to save me so many hours, help me increase my profit so much percent, et cetera, versus me doing it, and that's worth more than me doing it, done. We've created a gap that is so easy for me to jump over, because me saving like those 4 hours a month or 10 hours a month is worth hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or whatever it is. That's super simple, you know, because my time isn't even worth that. That's worth way more than my time. But then two, my time frees up so that I can make way more than that anyway, you know, in either new sales growth or whatever else. So building that gap is really what the need is. And that's true, not just in B2B, that's true in personal life too. You know, you've got a carpet with a horrible stain. What's that need in that pain? The embarrassment of friends and family coming over, seeing the stain, maybe the odor that's coming out of that stain and hitting quality of life. The longer it sits there, or you're going to sell your home soon, let's just say, you can't have it sit there. That's going to impact the sale of this house, because now they're factoring in the cost of redoing carpets, et cetera. I mean, what else can you think of? You got to build as a salesperson all of those needs, find all those pains, and yet you kind of like twist on them a little bit. And I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean in a, like, it has to stay forward, because people make decisions emotionally. We use all of these objective elements, like the cost, the pain, the timing, all of these are objective, but then we have to relate it back personally. So we use all of these things to qualify and touch on those emotional points. And that's how we figure out, are they sales qualified? Is, do they meet all of our criteria? So you have to define them. Like, you know, what is the budget level of a business that can afford bookkeeping? It's usually like, probably, Bridget, there's a certain revenue field where it's just like, yeah, companies of this size or larger can afford us. But then in your mind, I'm sure there's also companies of this size and larger. Oh man, they're even better, you know, like, and we all have them. And so that's what we have to do for all of these criteria.
Yeah. When you were talking about that with the need, like, that's almost the sales 101, right? Like, how do you make them realize that not doing or not having what you're selling is a bigger cost to them? So if they've already reached out for the phone call, like, how do you identify those? I love the acronym BANT. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh because you're talking about the carpet stain and like the selling of the house. And it made me think of, like, the other day, somebody was talking about, like, we have had the trim and we've neglected putting the trim back up in our house for all of these years, but we're doing it now because we're going to sell. And somebody else was like, oh, we finally did ours because we're hosting Christmas. So it's like, what is coming up in that person's life that it's, why did they reach out? Find out why they reached out. There could be something there.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes. And so what I find is when our clients or others say a lead is bad, I tend to find they're not always finding all of the BANT, all of the BANT criteria. They're missing something and therefore thinking they're bad. And it usually comes down to, no, something was just off and they need to be nurtured, or a connection wasn't made on a pain point. So there was no emotional reason to make a decision. You know, if we're selling a service, plumbing, let's just say, you know, somebody wants to redo the pipes in their house. Okay. They're just galvanized old, but they want to go to PVC or I forget what the other one's called. Whatever they are. Let's just say they want to update all the piping and whatever else, you know, that's going to cost thousands of dollars. But if there's no timeline reason to do it, they don't feel any health reason to change it, or there isn't any cost savings in terms of heating or water pressure. You know, if we haven't connected to anything there, it's really easy for somebody to just walk away. You know, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks. $5,000. I don't feel like that right now. But if like there was a connection to, hey, you know, with new pipes, actually your water is going to stay hotter longer, so you don't have to heat it as much. That's going to give you savings throughout the year. The other thing is, like, with the other pipes, they leach certain things, but because this is a certain type of plastic that doesn't leach anything, you've got a real health benefit here as well. You know, do you have anybody in your house with these conditions? You know, actually, this is going to prevent the exacerbation of those. You know, like, now we're connecting. And by the way, I'm not a plumber. I'm not a metallurgical expert.
You sold it, though.
I'm not lying I'm not trying to lie here either or create anything. What I'm saying is these are the things we have to know about our industries, of how do we connect to the people in the house. You know, if you're a home with pets, you've got hair everywhere, pet hair. You know what I mean? Then you have guests over that are allergic, or you've got shag all over your couches. You know, there's unsightliness. And how much time does it take for a homeowner to do that cleaning themselves? You know, like there's just all of these things that we can connect to. So I tend to find when we say, the leads are bad, it's usually that we're not identifying these elements and doing the sales follow-ups to find them all, to make that emotional connection is really the issue at play. Because if somebody is willing to share, I make $250,000 a year. My house isn't that big. I got plenty of a disposable income. If they're willing to tell you that, then it's like, they can afford what we have. But if you haven't found that need and they don't have any timing, why would they clean the carpet? You know what I mean? Like they've lived with it. That's like one question is, how long has the stain been there? 4 years. Well, you can tell there's no pain. Okay. They're not feeling any pain about the stain in the carpet. So they were fine living with it for 4 years. So what else is going on that you're calling me to clean it now? And if you not ask that question of, we're putting the house up for sale, you know what? You're going to lose the quote because you're not willing to, ask the follow-up question, which is like, when are you hoping to list? Well, looking at our calendar, we can get you in 3 days. Maybe you'll even list earlier. Look at the benefit, get them on the market early. You know what I mean? Like there's things that we can do, but if we didn't figure that out, we send them a quote. Now they're comparing the quote with everybody else and you've not made that emotional connection. So, I went really deep onto that piece, but now the question becomes, So now we've got this criteria band, and we've understood the level of quality, not quality. I keep saying that because qualify quality. I guess quality, the level of quality of the marketing lead. Are they like low interest, mid interest, or high intent for purchasing? We understand, are they newsletter, ebook, or asking for a sales meeting? In sales, do we have BANT? Have we made that emotional connection? Now comes, once we are actually collecting that data, that's when we can start saying, we're either getting good or bad quality. Okay, now is when we can start having that conversation. And it's not a one time and it's fixed kind of a convo. We were just talking before, Bridget, actually about this, which was like, with marketing, and it was mentioning it earlier, we have like this messaging where we can target a CEO or we can get really narrow on keywords. But then what happens is sometimes the leads aren't quite right or we get too few. So we have to get broad again. Then we like nudge over to a slightly different topic, and then we go narrow and broad, and then we nudge over again, go narrow and broad, or we have multiple topics that we're targeting. We're going in and out on these to find what works. And once we find it, it's going to shift. It doesn't stay there forever. So it's a constant conversation between sales and marketing on what we're seeing. And if we're not collecting all of that data, budget, authority, need, timing, that info is very important for sales because it gives us certain language. It helps us understand the mindset or the type of person we're attracting. Are we keeping track of, men versus women we're talking to? Certain industries just do lean more heavily one way or the other. Age ranges matter. What else? Income levels. If we're not grabbing this information to then communicate back and forth between sales and marketing, we're basically then asking someone to do their job with a hand tied behind their back or a blindfold on, and so it's really difficult when, and we ask our clients to try and get this information, but, then they come to us and they're like, we got bad leads. Well, what was bad about them? And then there's this question mark, what do you mean? They just didn't close. Well, were they of the right income level? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Were they, did we identify, did they have something coming up that was pressing as to the reason they needed this service or product? We didn't get that information. Okay. I think there's some sales things that have to happen here to improve. But then we have those clients, Bridget. We actually have those clients where they're like, I know we track this and we're just attracting a lot of low income and they can't afford our service. They want it, but they can't afford it. They just had never done it before. Okay, cool. So then we do some stuff on the marketing side to better qualify, give price ranges, et cetera, so that they qualify themselves out before even going through the system. And therefore anything coming in becomes better quality, and it's that conversation back and forth that really helps to focus a campaign and to really drive higher quality.
I mean, that's kind of marketing summed up, right? Like you're always collecting data to get intel as to what is or what is not working and adjusting and tweaking from there. Like if you're
Yeah.
not testing and you're not like adjusting, you're going to see in business owners' eyes failure, right, in their marketing, because that's what it is. Like it's collecting the data to gain insights as to what their ideal clients or audience wants. And guess what? People's wants change. And if you're not always testing and collecting, you're not going to know when the shifts are happening
100%.
or how to address or change when it's happening.
Yeah. Okay, so I have two metrics, and it wouldn't be us if we didn't have two metrics to pay attention to here. So the first is a lead to close ratio. So that's how many of the leads that are coming in through marketing. So marketing qualified leads, how many MQLs, marketing qualified leads, are turning into clients. So that's the first ratio. The second ratio is your sales close ratio. How many of those sales qualified leads are closing as well? And so every industry has averages in those two benchmarks. And so understanding what those averages are for the industry is a great first starting point. And then over time, you will understand your company's average or benchmark for those metrics, and you can just start in trying to improve on those. So that's the way that I explore that. So in cleaning, let's just say a lead to close ratio for recurring service around 18 to 20%. So 18 to 20% of all leads will become recurring customers. And then like a sales close ratio is, somewhere in the 25 to 40% range, 25 being low, 40% being really, really high on recurring. So, if you have those two metrics and you understand how things are progressing, you can compare to the industry, but then know where you're at and just improve from there. So those are the metrics I'd focus on.
Love it.
Cool. I guess just quick summary is, define what a marketing qualified lead is, that list criteria. And then 2, define your BANT and make sure you're tracking it. That's really it for that. So how about we get into our WTB moment of the week?
Boom.
I really like this. Okay. I think you went first last time. So I need to go first this time. Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So mine is a client of ours, and it's a win. Okay, of course, it's a client of ours. I have to talk well about a client of ours, but I'm not going to name who the client is. Okay, just know they're an event-based, client. They do shows, and they had somebody come to the door for a show, and they were like, "Yeah, here's our name," and they're like, "You're not on the list," and they're like, "No, we totally purchased. We used a gift certificate even to purchase tickets." And so they pulled up the site. They went they couldn't find it. And I mean, one, they could have said no. Okay. But the person gave them their email address, the name and everything, here it is, etc. Can we find it? And so instead of just wasting time at the door with a whole line, it was customer experience, give me a name, etc. Come on in, enjoy the show. They had capacity, enjoy the show. So the first thing is delight right there. Okay. We're going to let you in. We're going to trust that you had tickets. You gave me your contact info. We know who you are, et cetera. We know all of this. We're going to figure out what's going on. So come on in. They had friends with them. They spent money at the bar. They bought food, plenty of revenue. So huge win anyway. Okay. We did some research after the fact and found out there was a gift card, but they didn't actually complete a purchase with it. Nor did they complete a purchase period. They thought they did something in the whole process for them. It just didn't go through. So I was talking with him okay, so I think we have two choices here. One, I can deduct the tickets from the gift card, okay? Or 2, we can not deduct it and tell them, hey, you still have this gift card. We've decided not to deduct it. Why don't you use it for tickets in the future and come back? And what did they choose? The second option. And I love this so much. I love this. It's so smart. It's just do I want the quick win of the $15, $20 now? Or do I want them to come back, spend that $15, $20 anyway with the gift card because I already have that money, and then come in and spend money again at my bar with food and potentially bring friends so that I get even more?
Well, and even the delight to that patron of saying, oh my gosh, I didn't necessarily do this right. I still have the full gift card, but they still let me in. They were really cool about it. They're not taking it away. I get to go back. Like that travels. Like the way that they made that person feel or how they handled it, like that alone is like a word of mouth spiral of like, they were awesome. Look at what they did.
Yeah. So I hope that's exactly what happens. I don't think I've seen the review come in yet, but I hope they tipped well that night. But I just love this because it's all about customer experience, you know, and like you said, word's going to travel and they spend money at the bar on food. It's not about just about tickets. There's more. And actually the bar and food brings in more revenue than the tickets. So if we can get them in a second time, that's the win. And in the end, the customer feels delighted. One, oh my God, you let me in the first time. And now I have the opportunity to go back again. You know, I got to do this and I got to bring friends. You know, I think it's just a good thing. So yeah, cool. Yeah, that's mine.
That's awesome. Mine is also a win. It not because we're trying to only have wins today, but it just was. So this I think is a powerful case as to another like customer service thing going above and beyond and just knowing your client base and making their life as easy as possible. So it is a business that we use. It's actually an orthodontist office, and they hands down have been the best customer service I have ever experienced in my whole life. And I will like stand on that rock right now till the end of time, because I don't know how anybody's ever going to catch up to how good they've been. But the most recent example was my daughter. So we empower our kids to manage their own schedules. So she had her appointment scheduled in her calendar, forgot about it, didn't tell us like, oh, hey, my appointment's today, missed it.
Yeah.
The office will actually they reached out. We didn't even notice until like 2 weeks later, but they reached out via text and was like, hey, looks like Aaliyah missed her last appointment. Here's some options for what we have available. Do any of these work? I did not have to get on the phone to try to reschedule this thing. Like they caught it. They reached out. They gave us options and it was like done over text within seconds. Like I didn't have to think about it. What more would parents, because it's parents taking kids typically to an orthodontist, right? They're busy. Yeah. If they get that level of service, like I can even say previously, like my kids would go in for their appointments and I'd normally just hang out in the car because I don't need to be in there. They'd leave. They would text me with appointment options. So I never had to go in to schedule the appointment. Like it was just done. So that is like the power of using text for really good and knowing your customers and how to make their life easier. Complete win, hands down.
Well, no, I love it even more from another angle of like how many firms will have like a missed appointment fee, you know, and or like negative incentive, you know, pieces in play. And while those have their place, you know, for abusers, etc., honestly, you should just kick them out and just not have them as a client.
But, if they're abusers, yes.
You're right. If they're abusers anyway. But I mean, this is so great of just like, hey, I don't think you meant to miss this. Here you go. Let's just get you in, you know, like that's the point. We need to get you in, you know? And so I love that kind of, I'm sure it's automation on their end, which is
it's actually
really easy to do. Oh, it's not. That's actually personal. Oh man, that could be automated. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. I mean, that's cool too. But stuff like that can be automated even, you know, that, you know, you miss an appointment, so many days go by and it's just sends this automated of like, hey, did you know, blah, 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 missed their appointment. Here's some upcoming dates and times that are available because it can grab that stuff from calendars too. But it's such a great, you know, that is such a great feature, you know,
it is.
That just, it sounds like there's other communication that they do as well. Like you said, around not just rescheduling, but other elements that are pretty cool. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in to What the Biz this week. If you enjoyed something out of today, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. I mean, like Apple Podcasts, that'd be great. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts, helps others to identify, you know, what's good in an episode. And if you've been listening and you've heard our past few What the Biz moments of the weeks, let us know if it's something that you like, if we should continue it. You can hit us up on the website as well at whatthebiz.com with any future topics. But with that, Bridget, what's coming up next for you?
We are actually headed out of town, so I am looking forward to some sunshine and some recharge.
Oh,
here.
you're going down south to the dry
am.
parts.
I am going to South Carolina for a week, so
There you go. Okay, well,
yes.
hopefully the whole polar thing, hopefully that doesn't like stay lingering down that way.
Oh, I really
you
hope
might,
not.
Yeah, because you might just leave here for the same down there. That would
I
be
really
weird.
hope not. Do not jinx me.
I'm knocking on wood for you. Yeah, for us, so yeah, we just had the busy travel with Thanksgiving. So I am, I think it's nose to the grindstone right now. It's making sure all the holiday stuff is in place so that New Year is just chill. I love a chill New Year. That time between Christmas and New Year is a wonderful, like 7, 8, 10 day period where it's just like, man,
Brain
this
shuts
is
off.
wonderful. Yeah, I do like a lot of reading in that period. I do some learning. I'll also get together with some friends a little bit more often, or try to do a couple of things in there. And so I don't want to have to work in that period is really it. So these next couple of weeks are just going to be, get everything in place so I can disconnect for a bit. Yeah.
Love it.
That's it. Cool. We are looking forward to our next few episodes. So please let us know what topics you'd like us to cover. And like I said, that's whatthebiz.com. But with that, we'll see you in the next one.